On today's show, it was an absolute block party by the Houston Rockets in Dallas, Texas, as they take the win against the Luka Doncic-less Dallas Mavericks, 101-92. Some incredible defense being played by this Houston Rockets team. Usman Garuba everywhere in this game. Jabari Smith Jr. locking down in the fourth quarter. Kevin Porter Jr. stepping up in a big way down the stretch in this game. Jalen Green's playmaking on display. All of that and more coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start.
The Houston Rockets select Jalen Green and Jabari Smith Jr.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
Every time I step on that floor, I'm coming.
You're getting somebody who's going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, somebody who's going to come in and compete from day one.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Uzi. What's up? And welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Mondays, host of the State of the Rockets podcast, as well as Rockets Watch. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at JT Gatlin, and the show, of course, at Locked On Rockets, free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, where you can help the show out tremendously by commenting anything below. But this time, question of the day: what was your favorite block from this Houston Rockets game? Those chants for Usman Garuba, Uzi, accompanied by also some MVP chants outside the Houston Rockets locker room after this game. Rockets taking the win against the Dallas Mavericks, 101-92. A total block party by the Houston Rockets. 19 blocked shots in this game. The most block shots the Dallas Mavericks have ever had by an opponent was 16. So the Rockets shattered that record. They came up, this is the tied for the second most blocks in franchise history by the Houston Rockets. They came up one short of matching their actual franchise history block total, which was set all the way back in 1984. Also, surprisingly, on November 16th, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, on that little factoid, which is really cool. The Rockets played some incredible defense in this game. Look, it was a Dallas Mavericks team with no Luka Doncic. I get that. But even still, this was a really impressive, gritty win by the Rockets. This was not a fabulous, high-octane game. This was a low-scoring affair, and they managed to win the game. Even though they only scored 101 points, they managed to win the game. That was one of Steven Silas' big takeaways after the game, was just, hey, we won this thing with 101 points, right? Kevin scored 17. Jalen scored 17. It didn't matter, right? They won this game with defense, and the block shots were an insane part of that. And at the core of what the Rockets did, I mean, you go down the list. Everybody took place had a role in the block party in this game, except for Eric Gordon and Josh Christopher. But every single other player who played in this game got involved in the block party. It's really funny to look. You look down the list. Jabari Smith Jr., 2 blocks. Alp, 5 blocks, a career high in block shots for Alperen Sengun. Kevin Porter Jr., 3 blocks. Jalen Green had a block. Usman Garuba, 3 blocks. KJ, 2 blocks. Tari Eason had a block. And then even Daishen Nix got in on the action with a couple blocks. 19 blocks for the Houston Rockets as a team. Let me know which one was your favorite block shot from this game in the YouTube comments. Your Locked On Rockets player of the game from this one has to go to Usman Garuba. He was a huge part in igniting the run to close out the half for the Houston Rockets to go into the halftime with a lead. He was a huge part of closing out the game in the fourth quarter. Played some incredible minutes for Uzi. 12 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 blocks, no turnovers off the bench in 22 minutes. And certified sniper Usman Garuba, 2 of 2 from long distance in this game. He is shooting a blistering 75% from long range on the season. He's only 6 of 8. But that's besides the point. Sample sizes be damned. Usman Garuba is now a certified 3-point sniper. No, I kid. But seriously, Uzi provided so much needed intensity in this game, and his presence off the bench, his ability to be such a versatile defensive force for the Houston Rockets cannot be understated. His impact is monumental when he is in the game, right? He made Christian Wood's life difficult when he was in the game. He was attacking the glass relentlessly, both not so much offensively, but just closing out defensive possessions strong, right? That's how the Rockets are able to get into their offensive sets quickly, right? You get a good defensive stop, you kick the ball ahead, and even if they don't necessarily go down as transition opportunities, being able to close out a defensive possession strong by securing the defensive board and then getting it up ahead quickly and able to get into your offensive sets fast, that's what unlocks some of what the Houston Rockets offense wants to do. And hey, this game wasn't pretty. We'll talk about a little bit of the game flow there in segment 2, the big-time run by the Rockets to close out the half, the drought at the top of the fourth quarter, and then closing out the game in a strong way. But Uzi deserves his flowers for his impact in this game, and even offensively, setting good hard screens, rolling well, some very, very key assists in this game, and one of if not possibly one of the plays of the game just offensively in this one by Usman Garuba early on. The roll and then the subsequent kick out pass to KJ Martin, to a cutting KJ Martin coming and flying in from the baseline, and KJ punches it home on top of Dwight Powell's head, and then Dwight Powell just wrong place, wrong time, just standing there. KJ Martin gets a flagrant 1 because he emphatically dunked the ball, and Dwight Powell decided to leave his face right underneath the rim. So KJ's knee coming up, making contact with Dwight Powell's face. Look, my personal opinion, Dwight Powell shouldn't have been there, right? Like, you got beat by your man, get out the way or be a part of the poster. And he was a part of the poster, and KJ's knee connected with his face. Shouldn't have been there, shouldn't have been a flagrant 1. Doesn't matter, because then he went and bricked the first free throw. And you know what? The old adage, how does it go? Ball don't lie. So this was a fantastic game. I want to talk about the runs in this game, because this was very much a game of runs through certain stretches, and thankfully it played out in the Rockets' favor. Talk about the halftime, or the run just before halftime, the drought at the top of the fourth quarter, and then closing out this game in a big way. We're gonna get there after a quick message from my friends over at BetterHelp. Look, there are times, I know I felt this way, when you just wish that life came with a user manual, right? Predefined steps. Do this, accomplish this. Unfortunately, it doesn't, right? Life doesn't come with a user manual. So when things aren't working for you, it's normal to maybe feel stuck, right? Navigating any of life's challenges can make you feel unsure. Maybe it's a career change, or you're struggling with stuff at work. It could be something with interpersonal relationships, could be with family, friends. Maybe it's a significant other. Could be something, gigantic, like becoming a parent, right? Bringing a life into this world. Any and all of those challenges, right? BetterHelp can provide you the resources to tackle them, right? Whether it's coping mechanisms, whether it's self-empowerment, learning to deal with trauma, what have you. BetterHelp is a fantastic resource for those types of things. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It could not be any easier. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% on your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, appreciate you making LOR your first listen. For your second listen, go check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Unfortunately for Christian Wood, he was not able to exact his revenge on the Houston Rockets in this game. I do wonder, right, if you're C. Wood, who did have he had a decent game, 26 points, 8 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block off the Dallas Mavericks bench in 31 minutes of run, 9 of 22 from the floor. I do wonder at what point do you start to feel like you're taking this game personally, because C. Wood got stuffed so many times in this game. I need to go back and actually count. And I'm going to compile as soon as I'm back in Houston and out of South Oklahoma. I am going to compile a block highlight montage from this game, because, again, the block party was just fantastic to experience, and it's just a fun game. It was an ugly game for stretches of it. It was an ugly first quarter. It was an ugly third quarter by the Rockets. and it was an ugly top of the fourth quarter, but they held into this game with their defense. And I want to give credit to Steven Silas for stopping the bleeding in the second quarter going into halftime. The Rockets were down 51-42, and it looked like the Dallas Mavericks were getting ready to pull away. Seawood was rolling. They were scoring buckets. Tim Hardaway Jr. had it going off the bench, finished the game with 28 points. And it looked like, man, all right, crowd's rocking, everybody's into it. And Steven Silas made a lineup change. He went back to the Goon Squad to close out the half. He brought in Garuba, he brought in Tari, he brought in that energy group to shut things down and to give the Rockets the spark that they needed off the bench. And it was in that run that Usman Garuba, who I honestly, I can't remember if I said it or not in segment 1, but he is your Locked on Rockets player of the game in this one, just decidedly so. Both polls, Twitter, YouTube, y'all crushed it. Uzi was absolutely the player of the game, so shout out to Uzi for earning his first Locked on player of the game honors this season. But in that run, he was key. He was integral to that run, both defensively, getting stops, shutting things down. The Rockets pitched a shutout to close the half, and they went on a 15-0 run. That spark, that run, and the couple threes that Uzi hit in there, the defense that was being played, the intensity with which they closed out the quarter, that energy carried into halftime, and it gave the Rockets just enough of a cushion to weather the struggles in the third quarter, right? You don't know what that could have looked like. You go into half, and if the Mavs are rocking, if they carry a double-digit lead into halftime, we're probably talking about a Rockets L, right, where the Mavs come out, big third quarter, crowd is still into it, whatever. But taking the crowd out of the game, swinging the game around, 15-point swing to go from down 51-42 to then entering the half 57-51, and closing things out in a really big way. Jalen Green splashing, I believe it was his 200th career three-pointer to close out the half for the Rockets. Big way to end things. And then we get to the third quarter. And this is where the game got a little sticky. And I even pointed it out at one point. I had a few people in my mentions afterwards, after the fact, saying, "Oh, this take aged poorly." No, because within a given game, you have ebb and flow to the game. And I thought KPJ in the third was pressing a little bit, right, where he was forcing some shots, especially from the mid-range, kind of getting into those early paint floaters, fadeaways. He wound up going 1 for 4 in the quarter, had a couple TOs. It wasn't a great quarter from KPJ, and I thought at points he was trying to do a little bit too much by himself. Whereas the rest of the game, quarters 1, 2, and 4, it felt like he did a much better job of involving his teammates, even if he wasn't directly the one leading to a dime here or there. He was moving the ball well, right? The hockey assists, whatever. And the Rockets struggled in that third quarter. They only posted 19 points. It was the only quarter where they failed to break 20 in this game. And they kind of struggled in that third quarter. And things looked a little dicey going into the fourth. And then top of the fourth quarter, they go through a drought. The Rockets are like completely struggling to score the rock. It was like a 3+ minute drought. They had a dunk by KJ Martin like somewhere near the top of the fourth quarter off a nice dime by Jae'Sean Nix. But they struggled. They could not get the ball to go in the hoop. And there was a point where THJ dribbled up, splashed a three, and made it, I want to say it was like 81-81. Yeah, he tied it up at 81-81. It was like 81-78. THJ dribbles up, splashes a three in transition. And then Rockets come down. They turn the ball over. Either very next possession, a couple possessions later, they turn the ball over, and Mavs push the ball up the court in transition, and it turns into a Seawood alley-oop lob dunk over the top, and Mavs take the lead 83-81. And this was the spot where it's like, all right, game could have gone one of two ways. Mavs have regained momentum. They took the lead. Crowd's back into it, whatever. How do you respond if you're the Houston Rockets? And the Rockets responded incredibly well. They could not have had a better response. Steven Silas comes back to his core guys, his starters, and very next play, Rockets managed to tie it up off of KPJ with a beautiful little lofted pass over the top to Uzi, and he gets the 2 points right at the rim. So they tie the game up 83-all. A couple possessions later, you run Jalen Green. He gets a pick and pop with Jabari, which, watching them grow, and again, Jalen Green's playmaking, want to highlight that in the third segment as well, but that's going to be a play that the Rockets are going to be able to have in their toolbox for a long, long time. So seeing Jabari step up and have that big three-pointer to kind of give the Rockets a little bit of breathing room, 88-83. And then Jalen Green has a possession. He drives it in from the left wing and then pitches it back to Alp at the top of the key. And Alp, rather than doing that little hezzy, pump fake, whatever, deciding whether he's going to pass it, make a move, whatever, dribble handoff, he just takes it and he just goes, just drives. Kind of caught the defense sleeping a little bit, goes in and yams it home. So at that point, Rockets, were in the danger area of, potentially losing hold of the game, letting go of the rope, and they responded with a big 9-0 run. And that 9-0 run, gave them the breathing room that they needed. And then, across all of this, in this stretch as well, Jabari Smith Jr. is playing some really intense defense on the other side. Jabari just dialed in that fourth quarter, had possessions where he was guarding multiple guys on a single possession. There was one, I need to go back and find it. There was one where he was on the wing, guarded the drive, rotated out to the top of the key, closed out on a shooter. He slipped and fell and then managed to get back into the play and then wound up blocking a baseline drive, I think it was. He got whistled for a foul. I need to go back and see who it was because I didn't have it written in my notes because I was just caught up in the moment. He wound up being whistled for a foul on that play, but it could have been a block. I really thought Silas was going to challenge it, honestly, at that point, because it was deep enough into the game in the fourth quarter where I was like, you know what? Challenge that call, right? Because I think that could have been a 50-50 call. But Jabari's defense, he just completely dialed in there in the fourth quarter. And then Mavs make their run. They push back into it. They've got the game down. It's 93-90. Mavs have clawed their way back into it, and KPJ gets an isolation on Christian Wood in the right corner, and KPJ kind of just walks the ball back out to the corner, and you knew it. When I spoke to KPJ at shoot around, I was like, "You excited to play against C Wood?" He was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Been looking forward to this one." And I said, "Are you gonna get him in an ISO and kind of dance on him a little?" And he was like, "Oh, it's gonna happen." And so Kevin Porter Jr., despite kind of pressing a little bit in that third quarter, maybe forcing some shots that he didn't need to force, he took his time in that fourth quarter and waited for the right moments to strike. And the shots that he delivered late in the fourth quarter were so clutch. Hit the step-back three over Seawood to give the Rockets a 6-point lead. So, boosted the lead up to right, double check. I want to make sure I got that right. It was either, boosted the lead to 96-90, I believe it was. Come on, if this will actually load. Yeah, I want to make sure I got that right because I wrote it down in my notes, and I want to make sure I actually got it right. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, 96-90 with 2.5 to play. That's what it was. And very next possession, Rockets come down, and Kevin Porter Jr. Kevin Porter Jr. comes back down and gets his next offensive opportunity where he drives the ball in, just overpowers Mavs defense, just gets in, little layup over the top, little floater, and Rockets are up now 98-92, 6-point lead with less than 90 seconds to play, and the very, 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 the dagger possession, less than a minute to go, and KPJ drives in, he sucks in the defense, pitches it back to Usman Garuba, which was a good pass. Uzi just couldn't handle it, and thankfully Uzi recovered it, he bobbled the ball, flipped it back out to Eric Gordon, and EG iced the game with a three-pointer from the corner. That was the game, and that was the dagger, and the Rockets walk away with the 101-92 dub. Some significant runs being made in this game by both teams. The Mavericks, despite missing Luka Doncic, they had some big moments from C. Wood, from Tim Hardaway Jr. They just couldn't overcome the Rockets in this one. The Rockets' intensity on defense got them this win because offensively, things were not pretty for stretches of this game. But they were locked in enough defensively that they were able to seal the win, and then they got some big-time buckets from KPJ in the fourth to close this thing out. KPJ, as a whole, solid game overall, minus that little stretch in the third quarter where he kind of struggled. 17 points, 11 rebounds for Kevin Porter Jr., imposing his will in this game on the glass especially. 8 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks, 6 of 14 shooting, 3 of 4 at the charity stripe. Very, very solid night from KPJ. Really liked what I saw out of him for the majority of this game. Coming up, I want to talk about Jalen Green's development and growth and continued growth as a playmaker. He's got an assist streak that is alive and well. 6 assists for Jalen Green in this game, plus some of the other notes and tidbits from this one. We're going to get there in just a moment after a quick message from our friends over at Sweatblock. You know, the worst feeling is you're getting ready to go out. Maybe you're going to go hang out with some friends, whatever, head out to Midtown, head out to the Heights, whatever, maybe you're going out for a date and you're looking good. You're all dressed up to the nines, and then you step outside and you're outside for 5, maybe 10 minutes. Hey, it's Houston. It happens, right? And you just immediately, you're sweating, you're drenched through your clothes, all that. It's uncomfortable. You can start to feel nervous, whatever. It's nobody wants to feel that way, right? You can lose your confidence, all of that. It's uncomfortable, and you don't have to deal with that anymore. Sweatblock can help you out. Look, if you or someone is dealing with like excessive sweat or odor, you need to check out Sweatblock. Sweatblock wipes have been a bestseller on Amazon for the past 10 years with over 10,000 5-star reviews. Don't miss this opportunity to try Sweatblock, to check it out. Sweatblock gives you the confidence to wear what you want without embarrassing sweat. Sweatblock wipes were featured and tested on the Rachel Ray Show by actual firefighters. So if you or someone is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, be sure to try Sweatblock. Save 20% with promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. They're also available on Amazon. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Let's talk a little Jalen Green's playmaking, because Jalen's playmaking in this game, he continues to really impress. Now, he had quite a few more turnovers than you would like to see in this game, and the team as a whole had quite a few more turnovers than you'd like to see. Steven Silas, highlighting that in the post-game presser, being impressed with Jalen Green's playmaking and his growth there, but at the same time, cutting back on some of the blown possessions in this game. Rockets had 20 turnovers as a team. Alperen Sengun got called for traveling a couple times. There were just some botched passes all throughout this game. 20 turnovers. It's not sustainable. You're not going to win a lot of games when you have north of 20 turnovers. But the Rockets, again, their defense in this game was good enough to kind of make up for the fact that the offense was really sloppy at times, really messy. But I did think it was encouraging that they got back to the ball movement. Look, the Mavericks are a team that still switches a decent amount of their defensive schemes, and yet the Rockets still managed to get to their drive and kick game. They managed to move the basketball well, and what really stood out is, as I was looking over things, in that fourth quarter, the Rockets had 7 made shots in that fourth quarter. They had 6 assists on those 7 made shots. The only shot that didn't get credited with an assist was Kevin Porter Jr. in the corner when he danced on Seawood. I believe it was that one. He might have actually been credited with, or it might have been his drive in a little bit later, but somebody dished him the ball. It was one of KPJ's 2 shots that KPJ kind of like soloed it there for a second. But there's always a little bit of a window on like what is actually counted as like an assist or a shot created. But I did think that was kind of telling that the Rockets were, it kind of supported the fact Rockets were moving the ball a little bit better, right? Things got a little sticky there in the third quarter, and then they started moving the ball a little bit better, especially when the starters came back in to close things out in the fourth quarter. So as a team, 21 assists on 35 made shots. That's a decent number if you're the Houston Rockets. So Jalen Green, as a playmaker, continues to show flashes, continues to grow. The 5 turnovers needs to get better, needs to clean that up. But the 6 assists and the offense that he's generating and creating as defenses are loading up on him is the important part, right? And as he grows and as he understands the decision-making process of, okay, well, maybe I don't have it tonight, or I'm missing some of these easy shots. Again, 5 of 15 night, that needs to be better. But by and large, he's had, some really, really strong, efficient games this season. So, a one-off here, as long as he doesn't slip back into a shooting slump, all is going to be well. But for Jalen, understanding those reads, and as defenses do load up on him, being able to make those plays for his teammates is going to stand out in a really, really big way as he continues to grow this season. So the increased playmaking from Jalen is a good development, right? Seeing the Rockets utilize him a bit more as a playmaker, letting him initiate some of the offense, letting him get into those pick and roll sets where he can be the decision maker, whether he gets all the way downhill and gets to the rim, or whether he kind of, slows things down a little bit and kind of is gauging how the big is guarding the pick and roll, and then he, pitches it to Alp or Garuba on the roll, whatever. Those are great opportunities. Those are great reps for Jalen Green. The other thing that was really weird in this game, Rockets with only 22 three-point attempts. That is like an anomaly, especially when you look at the other end of the spectrum, and the Mavericks had 55 three-point attempts. 55. That's an absurd number. The Mavs were getting threes up like it was like the 16-17 Houston Rockets. There's a lot of parallels between those two teams. But the Mavs wound up shooting just 21.8% from long distance, 12 of 55. The Rockets shot 45.5%, 10 of 22. Again, the Rockets would like to get up quite a few more threes, but the Mavericks were doing a good job. They were closing out. They were running them off the three-point line. And credit to the Rockets, they were doing a good job capitalizing on being run off the three-point line, right? They managed to get the ball into the interior. They managed to score at a really, really high level inside in the paint. And then they also got to the free throw line a ton. And the best part, they hit their free throws in this game. After, seemingly, a few games in a row where they hung, some serious points at the free throw line, getting there 24 times, hitting 21 of them was big in this game, 87.5% from the charity stripe in this one. So some really, really solid play through a sloppy game for the Rockets, just in certain areas, really delivering defensively in this game, really, again, turning up the intensity in that fourth quarter to be able to close things out. And it kind of felt like, and I want to inquire about this at a later date, but it felt like the Rockets did a better job early in this game of trying to push the tempo and really get out in transition. And it feels like as the game kind of, wears on, they stop doing that. Like, it feels like as the game moves on, they settle into the half-court offense a bit more than you'd probably like to see. And that kind of, things start slowing down a little bit. But a couple other notes that I got from this one before closing this thing out. The Rockets were just going at Christian Wood. Like, it was, again, they had the block party. Christian Wood got his stuff swatted multiple times. But in addition to that, they were targeting him offensively. And I was a little frustrated that it took so long to get back to targeting Seawood, because the Rockets forced Seawood to pick up 2 early fouls very, very quickly, and he had to go sit back down on the bench after, he had a short little burst of play in the first quarter, and then he had to go sit back down because he picked up 2 quick fouls. And one of the fouls that Seawood picked up was just a direct line drive from Jalen Green, where he drove the ball straight in off a dribble handoff set and went straight to Seawood's chest and finished the and one at the rim. A really strong move by Jalen Green. And on top of that, Seawood could not contain Alperen Sengun. Alp had, at one point, before the half, he had 12 and 6 or something. Alp was kind of cooking in this game, and then they just went away from him in the third quarter. And I thought that was one of the, the downsides to this game, is it felt like as strong as Alp's play was early, they kind of stopped going to him, and Seawood floated with those 2 fouls for kind of the majority of the remainder of the game, and then he wound up picking up a couple fouls in quick succession a little bit later on. But it was curious that the Rockets didn't go back to and keep attacking Seawood, because whether you're attacking him in the pick and roll with the ball handler in Jalen or KPJ and they just drive it straight into him, or whether you let a guy like Alp just post him up, Seawood is going to get cooked on defense either way. So even though Seawood drops you, a 26 and 9, that was my thing that I would say a lot last season, right? He can get you 26 and 8 in this game, but he probably gave up 35 and 15. Honestly, as far as what the Rockets are concerned, especially with how hard they were attacking the offensive glass early, they were getting second chance opportunities. So I was encouraged by what we saw out of Alperen Sengun in this game. I did think that they kind of got away from him in the second half. And then defensively, right, Alp with the 5 blocks. Talked about Uzi's game earlier, talked about Jabari's defense, but Alp's defense was really solid in this game. Did a good job, navigating pick and rolls, did a good job recovering, did a good job staying vertical in this game. Only 2 fouls, and he had one of the moments of the night. And I was asking about his conversation with KJ after last game, KJ telling him he needs to stop fouling, and Alp's reaction was great. I wanted to have it to run in the show, and unfortunately it's taking forever for me to upload the videos and get them downloaded and edited and all that, because hotel Wi-Fi is not the best. But Alp had this moment where I'm asking him about the fouls, and he goes, "That's not me, man, it's the referees." His English is getting so good. But I thought it was a solid night from Alp, with the Rockets kind of getting away from him a little bit there late, but solid overall performance from him. And last one that I have here, it was a highlight moment from Alp. Just little tip-ins here I've got at the end. Alp completely faked the hell out of Christian Wood on one of his moves at the basket, just a complete hezzy pump fake, whatever, and C Wood just went flying, just went zooming, and Alp was like, all right, easy 2 at the rim. And then on the very subsequent possession, C Wood wanted the 3-pointer on Alp so bad. You knew that C Wood was going to shoot the ball in the very next possession. Gets the ball in his spot, pulls up right in front of Alp, airballs it, doesn't hit anything, no iron, no net, no nothing. And that little sequence right there could not have been more entertaining, to watch Alp work Christian Wood on one end and then come down on the other end and then airball a 3-pointer. It was a fun game. It was a really, this was the type of win that the Rockets are going to need intermittently throughout the season. Yes, it was against a Mavericks team without Luka Doncic, but there was a lot of fun storylines, a lot of cool developments. Again, tying a franchise record in blocks is always a ton of fun. That doesn't happen every day, but based on what Garuba thinks, after the game, he's like, they can bring this kind of intensity every game, right? This is the type of intensity we need to see defensively from the Rockets every single night, because then you couple this type of defensive intensity with some of the nights where they go off offensively, where Jalen Green explodes or KPJ explodes, what have you. This Rockets team could be a lot to deal with if they're able to get both sides of the ball working the way that they need to. So with that, that's going to do it for today's episode. As always, appreciate you for checking out the show. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google. Brand new Odyssey app, free and available on all podcast platforms. We're also available on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Locked On Rockets, like, comment, and subscribe. Today's question, what was your favorite block from this game? Let me know in the YouTube comments. I do read each and every one of those every single day, but as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.